This is Rob from Rembrandts with Rob and Jay, and this is Rob's Reviews. I am sitting in the parking lot of my local cinema, and I just got through watching Captain America Civil War. So right off the bat, spoilers. Secondly, not quite as pumped after watching this one as I was Age of Ultron, but I still really enjoyed it. The first two-thirds of the film plays very much like a Captain America film as opposed to an Avengers sequel. It's very Bourne Identity, which there was a trailer for Bourne Identity right before it. I was gratified to see Matt Damon come back. So, moving forward from there, everyone was treated well, I think, in the whole, everyone got their moment. I had no idea how powerful Scarlet Witch was, in the movies anyway, in the cartoons. In the comics, she can, like, alter reality and stuff. So, who knows how far they'll go with that. But I think that about the time, it didn't play much like, at least the first part, didn't play much like the comic book. However, once they got to the airport and started fighting, all the lines were clearly drawn. Everybody knew whose side was on what, except maybe Black Widow. She kind of switched sides a little bit. But it did play like the comic book, and so especially they pulled one thing right from the comic of Iron Man's suit learning Captain's moves and countering automatically. So, but he still lost, but whatever. It's a little disappointing how it ended in terms of it didn't really resolve anything. At the end of the trade paperback, yes, Captain America kind of becomes a renegade, and he's got his own team of people, and that's kind of where they ended up. They ended up in Wakanda, of course, which I thought was really cool. Oh, and by the way, Black Panther is a bad motherfucker. Alright? That guy, holy shit, that was some cool shit. Seeing Bucky, Black Panther, and Captain America outrunning moving cars. Not in Flash style, where it's just, like running. And that was really awesome. I got a big kick out of that. Not too much of this nothing really looked fake at all. I think Vision, they did really good with Vision, giving him some character development. They did kind of hint at the Vision Scarlet Witch thing a tad bit in their little domestic thing. I think they also played the part of Reed Richards and Sue Storm from the comic. They were split down the middle between the two of them, because I was wondering how they were going to do this without the Fantastic Four. That being said, 2 new characters added, one brand new in terms of this version, and another one from his own film. And once they showed up, they took that scene over, the airport scene. Ant-Man and Spider-Man were just scene stealers. They were awesome. They were so fucking great. Paul Rudd, and I forget the name of the kid who's playing Spider-Man now. I think Paul Rudd was already great. Ant-Man's one of my favorite movies, right up there almost with Iron Man. And I think Paul did great. He came in like halfway through the film, and we knew he was coming because we'd seen the trailer or we'd seen everything here. But he showed up and really nailed it out of the park. Just playing the big fanboy, the big geek boy, and we all know Paul Rudd's like, 10 years older than everybody but Downey Jr. on this movie. So, maybe Don Cheadle. But it was really cool to see him geek out over Captain America, kind of in the way that Coulson did in the first Avengers film. So that was good stuff. I think that I was kind of wondering, they brought the prison back. Not back, it was in the cartoons and the comics, which originally is where Ultron came from. Ultron was the warden for the supervillain prison. Supervillain prison kind of showed up in this one. I don't remember if they mentioned it in Avengers or not. Something that the government had set up. Now, in terms of the argument, I said this about the comic and I'm saying it about the movie. They both have valid arguments. Absolutely valid arguments. They're a little naive on one side or the other, because they're a little extreme on one side or the other. I think there was a lot of symbolism, a lot of allegory in here. It was very much like what we're dealing with in our current 2016 election. It is, at one point during the airport scene when they first start really fighting, and it's got that great comic book splash shot of them flying at each other, I felt that it was very symbolic of socialism versus democracy. Oddly enough, Team Iron Man being the socialist side and Captain being more the democracy side, because it makes sense. All their motivations make perfect sense. This is where Batman v Superman fucked up. The motivations didn't make sense. And this one did. Of course, these guys have had several films to build up their personalities and characters, so we kind of didn't have to waste time doing that. And thank heavens you didn't retell the fucking Spider-Man thing, by the way. We all know how Spider-Man came about. Same way Batman did, and we don't need to hear it again. Anyway, But as far as the socialism thing, Vision in that scene makes a comment about the greater good. This is for the greater good. And right then I was like, well, that sounds really communist, in a way. And then, of course, it occurred to me, of course Captain would take the freedom aspect. The thought that we are morally strong enough to make decisions on scene, that a bureaucracy doesn't need to be involved. Politics don't need to be involved. But I see the other side of it. I've worked in the government most of my life, and I can see making decisions on the fly, and I can see bureaucracy, especially when there's money involved. Anybody spending any money that's funded by the government, it has to go through a bureaucratic process. It's just the way it is. It can't function any other way. So I've always felt, me personally, that socialism with a dab of capitalism and democracy is actually the best way to go. I think that certain things should be socialized. Let's get politics here for a second, and certain things shouldn't be. And this seemed very much that argument. Maybe it's because I'm paying attention to the election right now. In terms of the friendship bond, is it somebody from your past, especially a war buddy, suddenly come back and is more important than your current friends? It's in the trailer, of course. Tony even says, I thought we were friends at one point. Another great splash shot was a shot during the final fight between Cap and Iron Man of them. They were kind of caught between two pillars, and you're looking at them like it's a frame. Looked just literally like a comic book page. And you got Captain holding up his shield and Iron Man blasting the shield, and they just froze there for like a second, like, that looks so cool. I did not see it in 3D. I don't think that it really needs to be seen in 3D. My wife and I went to see Jungle Book the other way, which I might as well review that while I'm at it. Went to see Jungle Book the other day, and there were some shots in there. I was like, ooh, I wish you'd seen it in 3D. But we didn't, because I got 3D TV at home. I'll just wait till it comes out. Or in Star Wars' case, like, I went to see it again in 3D, and that actually did make it better. So I may go back in a few weeks. The guys and I will probably get together toward the end of the month and review Civil War. We all said, okay, we'll go see it on our own, rather than go as a group like we did for Star Wars or Batman v Superman, which I think we should have done this one together instead of Batman v Superman. I think we'd have had more fun. I think that it's kind of hard for me to reconcile why Marvel is just kicking ass on the film side and DC's doing it on the TV side. Why can't they combine these two things? I did watch the last episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right before the premiere weekend. Last year, they made that comment, Call in the Avengers. I thought that was a really cool tie-in. Also, I was a little disappointed that Kobe Smulders didn't show up in this movie. She probably will in the Avengers one. So, but they didn't kind of do it. They made one comment. Ward made a comment about you have to be a billionaire and make a suit, and only the military can afford to make super soldiers. And then, okay, but they didn't actually reference anything that was directly related, at least I couldn't tell, to the film, except maybe that blue stuff. What is that blue stuff? Is that the super soldier serum, or is that the not Kree or whatever they are, the alien serum for the Inhumans? I hope they tie that in a little bit better. I think where DC is failing, or has failed up to this point, is one, the lack of build-up, and two, taking themselves too seriously. Civil War takes itself seriously without going over the top, but still has humor in there. I think Ant-Man and Spider-Man were the greatest idea they could have possibly had. Spider-Man is inexperienced, wisecracking. He's totally in awe of everybody. But he still keeps moving. He still does what he's told, not told, but more like he just keeps fighting, which is good. Ant-Man, I think they did some great stuff with Ant-Man. When he jumped into Tony's suit and started fucking with wires and somehow patched into Tony's communication system and started talking to him. Tony's like, who's that? Whose voice is that? What is that? He's like, you need to get this thing maintenanced. It's just really great shit. And I was hoping, I knew when they were bringing Paul Rudd into this, I was waiting for their interaction. Their interaction was going to be the funniest, because Paul Rudd and Robert Downey Jr. are two of the greatest funny straight man combos. Not like them together as funny straight, one's funny, one's straight man. They're both the same thing, funny and straight man. They can deliver a completely ridiculous line with a straight face and have it be funny as shit. And I think that I can't wait to see more scenes with them. I hope that turns out to be the case. I kind of feel like they're not really going to bring this to any kind of conclusion, because it seems, if I remember correctly, the next set of movies is going to be about the Infinity War. So they're kind of jumping to Guardians and the whole Infinity War thing. So I don't know how they're going to play this out. The reason I mention it is because they did end where the book kind of ended, but without the whole Peter Parker reveal thing. The thing that caught me and it was a little duplicitous on Tony Stark's part when he went to recruit Spider-Man, which again was out of nowhere, and happy that to be the case. We don't need the origin again. He said, "Why are you doing this? What is your deal?" And he basically, without saying with great response, great power comes great. Thank you for not saying that. But he did say, if I see something wrong, I have to do something about it, which is very much Captain America's point of view. And Tony just kind of let that go. He's kind of let it go by and didn't say a word. And he kind of filled in with a little rhetorics. You don't hear it at the time, but later on when Spidey says things like, "Yeah, he told me you were wrong, but you thought you were right," and shit like that. Just kind of propaganda in a way. And had Spider-Man actually understood why Cap was fighting, he totally would have agreed with him, which is what happened in the book. They did do a little bit of a nod to it by half pulling Spider-Man's mask off when he hit the ground. But yeah, those fights were great. I think Scarlet Witch, whoever does the stunts for Scarlet Witch and for Carter's niece, what's her name, amazing fight choreography, and also with Hawkeye. That's another thing. Agent Carter died in this one, but you don't see her die. I think that was a little bit of a disservice to the character. I think they might have done it on purpose just so they could keep the Agent Carter show going for a little while, because I really dig the Agent Carter show. But then they did show her really sadly in Winter Soldier with the Alzheimer's and whatnot, and that was a big bummer. So I can understand why they would want to kind of get her character out of the way. I wonder what they'll do with the show now, kind of how they're going to play that out. There's still the big rumor of, is Tony actually Carter's kid? Which would be interesting. So now, as far as the end credit scenes, the end credits themselves, the first part where they go through the main characters, I thought the shadows were great of the individual characters. I thought that was really cool. The first end scene, when they cut to Wakanda, and it's pretty obvious right off the bat. I was kind of hoping that the tube they put him in would look more like the S.H.I.E.L.D. one from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Inhuman box they put people in. But then it occurred to me when it didn't look like that, I was like, oh, they've got to be in Wakanda, because of course, Black Panther figures out that Winter Soldier's not the one who actually killed his parents, or killed his father, which is also interesting because Winter Soldier is the one who killed Tony Stark's parents, which is the big reason why Tony keeps going back and forth. Tony actually figures out that Bucky had been manipulated, and they'd all been manipulated by the U.S. government, and they don't come out and say that, but it's implied, so they could put these restrictions on the superheroes, and Stark figures that out. But as soon as Stark, for all his intelligence, still responds pretty emotionally to most things, and in a completely irrational, emotional move, but is an understandable one. As soon as he sees the evidence that Bucky had killed his parents, Tony's parents, he turned on them again. And Captain America and Winter Soldier proceed to beat the living shit out of Iron Man. One thing I think was lacking, though, is I figured they kind of already did this in Avengers. They would kill off a character to get everybody motivated, because that's what happened in the book. I forget the name of the character, but it was a character that gets big, like Ant-Man or Giganta or whatever. I don't remember his name. I feel awful, but he died accidentally. And when Don Cheadle, when Iron Patriot or War Machine fell out of the sky, I thought that's what they were going to do. They were going to kill Brody, and I thought that would have been a bit more powerful. However, War Machine's an awesome character. Don Cheadle's an awesome actor. They did break his back, but at the end you see him in a exoskeleton kind of thing, learning how to walk again. So I'm fine with that. I dig it. I would like to see War Machine in more, because I just think that's a cool design, and I think Cheadle's playing him very well. He's very funny. I don't think we needed necessarily, I know I'm jumping all over the place, I don't think we needed necessarily at the beginning of the film to see the footage of DC and New York. Why do we have to drive that nail home? We've all seen, anybody who's here has seen the movies, we don't need to go over this again. But it did give kind of a chance for Rogers to defend Scarlet Witch, because she saw her homeland getting destroyed in the footage, and he's like, all right, that's enough. It kind of set the stage for Rogers to start disagreeing. It was like not the catalyst, it was like the last straw. Like, he's like, okay, all right, that's it, we don't need to be told how bad we are. And like I said already, I can see both sides. frankly, when I read the book and when I first knew about this movie coming out and I did a little bit of the reading on the storyline, I'm still Team Iron Man. You have to have checks and balances in place. That's just the way it is. I understand, and I'm perfectly capable of making decisions on the ground, especially emergency situations, but some things are bigger than that, and you can't expect a country to answer for the actions of somebody they're not controlling. Now, sometimes people would say that's plausible deniability and built-in deniability, kind of like they're going to hopefully do with Suicide Squad, which I'm really looking forward to. I hope DC, pulls that one out. And if they don't, still looking forward to Wonder Woman, though. But anyway, I digress. The scene that I was hoping for after, if anybody listened to my review of Avengers Age of Ultron, that I really wanted to see the Avengers standing across from the Guardians, and I think that would be an awesome shot. Well, they kind of pulled that off with the airport scene in this, with Team Iron Man and Team Captain really standing across from each other. I am looking forward, however, to seeing, now it's kind of three teams, between the Guardians, Cap, and Iron Man. I'm kind of interested to see them all show up together. I think that would be really cool for Infinity War, but I'm curious how they're going to tie in the Avengers stuff with Infinity War. I guess maybe the next Guardians will probably give some hints to that. It was also interesting to hear how Vision really didn't understand anything about the stone that brought him to life, the Infinity Stones. He admitted he didn't know. He also admits to making a mistake. I became distracted. And of course, he was distracted by Scarlet Witch, which also hints at, the whole they're together in the comics thing. All in all, great. Loved the movie. I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was leaps and bounds ahead of what they tried to do with Batman v Superman. Again, I keep kicking Batman v Superman in the balls, but frankly, they dropped the ball, literally, with that one. And I think Civil War does what we wanted it to do. Everyone has a proper motivation. Everyone makes perfect sense. You can side with either side and make it'll feel right. The conflict, both viscerally and visually, works, and emotionally, it all ties in to make sense. Now, Jungle Book. Again, spoilers. I'm trying to remember all the details. Pretty much, I still like the cartoon better, but this was done very well. Jon Favreau did an excellent job. I would like to have seen more of Ka. She only has the one scene, which is she's a she in this one, by the way, voiced by Scarlett Johansson. I was really looking forward throughout the movie, watching the movie, seeing that scene between Ka and Shere Khan that they had in the cartoon. I was kind of hoping for that scene. I thought that would have been cool. Ka was also a scene where I wished we'd seen it in 3D. I got the impression that would look really awesome. There were a lot of nods in Jungle Book to Lion King. The water buffalo in the ravine, very much right out of Lion King. A couple of Tarzan references in there too, kind of skating along trees like they did in the Tarzan cartoon. And I'll get to a trailer here in a minute about that. The kid who played Mowgli, again, no, I'm in my truck, I have no idea, I could look at my phone, I suppose, but I don't remember his name, but he was outstanding, knocked it out of the park, totally understandable. The only thing that took me out of it, though, there's a great scene in where Baloo, played by Bill Murray, is getting this kid to knock a beehive down, a honeycomb down, and he gets stung a whole bunch, which that's just one of my worst nightmares, is dealing with bees and getting stung repeatedly, and which I have been. That's happened to me before, and but then the kid comes down, he's all covered in welts, which is understandable, and then the very next scene, the welts are just gone, and I kind of okay, they implying this is a week later, because they've been walking in the forest all this time, so that kind of bugged me a little bit. That was a continuity thing that kind of irritated me, but other than that, I thought the depiction of Shere Khan was flat out awesome, and I love Shere Khan in the cartoon as well. I think that voice, again, don't remember the voice actor's name, but I think that their version of Shere Khan was great. Bill Murray, my wife really liked Bill Murray as Baloo. I'm a big fan of the guy who did Baloo in the cartoon. I can't believe his name is escaping me suddenly. He was also in Aristocats, and he was a radio actor and worked with Jack Benny. Not Don Wilson, who was the other one. I can't remember the name. But anyway, look it up. He's a great voice actor. But I think Bare Necessities was a cute song. I got a big kick out of Bill singing that. I think they did it well. I think it made sense within the story. The one that didn't make sense, though, was the whole King Louie bit. The scene itself was fine, But him busting out into the song midway through the scene took me right out of it. And not to say anything against Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken was great, and in the end credits they sing the song again, more like the cartoon, but Louis sings it, and it's Walken, and it's a little diorama cartoon of them singing that song. That would have been perfect had they just had it there. I don't think they needed it in the scene with King Louis. Plus, it was a little hard to accept that there was a orangutan that was like fucking 10 feet tall or some shit. It's like, what the hell is this? Of course, who's going to quibble? Bears and wolves don't live in the jungle either, so I can understand that. Ben Kingsley as Bagheera, I think, was excellent. He was almost exactly right out of the cartoon, the same type of character, if not the same actions necessarily. I think the connection with the wolf pack is a lot better in this version, the live-action version, that is in the cartoon. Although it's been years since I've read the book, so I really can't compare it to that right at this time. I might pick it up and reread it at some point. Kipling's Jungle Book. I thought the kid being as young as he is was a good idea. Granted, that's how old the kid is, and it was good. It was excellent. I'm totally looking forward to buying it on 3D, and same with Captain America, by the way, and purchasing those. My wife loved Jungle Book a ton. Like, she really was into it. Like, she was excited about it. After seeing it, she's kind of hard to impress. So far this year, Jungle Book and Deadpool have been her favorites, which, hey, I can't argue. Those are awesome films. And speaking of which, Deadpool comes out on DVD then Tuesday, a couple days. Already got it on pre-order. So that's Captain America: Civil War and Jungle Book. Both excellent films. Go see these films. And an end note, there was a new ad, I don't know, catch what company it was, I don't think it was Disney, of a new live-action Tarzan. And guys, they can't possibly be a better film than Greystoke. I'll give Disney their version, because that's a cartoon. I totally get it. It's a different medium. And it's a great movie. It's wonderful. And of course, Phil Collins' music is outstanding in it. But if you want to see the definitive film version of Tarzan, and really, in the course of history, no story has been remade again and again more than Tarzan. It's been a TV show, it's been multiple movies. But back in the 80s, like 81 or something, Christopher Lambert, however you pronounce it, and Ian Holm, and a number of other folks, did Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan. And that is one of the greatest movies, frankly, ever made. It is amazing. Christopher Lambert doesn't get enough credit. He, of course, we went to see Hail Caesar. That's another movie we went to see recently. I might as well say something about that. And Chris Lambert made a cameo in that, which I was really surprised. A lot of character actors made cameos in that movie. But anyway, back to Greystoke. Go see Greystoke. It's a kind of a long movie. Get it on Blu-ray. It's beautiful. It starts out in the jungle, ends up in England. It's really amazing. Lambert does a great job. And between that and Highlander, I don't think he gets enough credit. He's really, really great. Hail Caesar was massively, however, disappointing. Scarlett Johansson was hardly in it. And I think that was a big mistake. I think George Clooney did a great job. He was funny and approachable and everything. I thought it was great. He doesn't play the character he usually plays, which is more slick or more of a curmudgeon like in Tomorrowland. But I think he was just real funny as hell in this. I'm familiar with the story, the whole communist Red Scare in Hollywood, and I kind of, again, everyone's talking about socialism again lately, which is really interesting. So Hail Caesar, for the most part, though, was pretty disappointing. Not funny enough. Not moving at all. The Coen brothers are awesome. I do like them, but I don't think this one pulled off very well. We ended up seeing it in a second-run theater. It only came out, like, not that long ago, so it'll probably won't be too long before it comes out on video, if not already. But, rent it. Don't buy it, necessarily. Rent it, and if you like it, grab it. It's a cute little period piece, but I don't think we were a little disappointed in it. That being said, anything else recently? Nope, that's it. So, if you're bored one night and absolutely have nothing to do, watch Hail Caesar. However, go out and buy the tickets, go out and see Jungle Book and Civil War, and then buy them when they come out on DVD. So, maybe I'll do another review here when the Deadpool thing comes out, and maybe they'll have some extra stuff on the Blu-ray disc. No 3D that I've seen, which is fine. Deadpool doesn't need to be 3D. Not at all. So anyway, this is Rob from Rembrandt's Rob and Jay, and this has been Rob's Reviews. Later.